Comfrey and chickens. Pretty nice combination. I was just in the garden here. I'm still in the process of harvesting comfrey to bring to the chickens, and I thought I'd share some quick notes of how we do the harvest and how we send it to them. This is basically like once a week now at this point. Towards the end of the season, the comfrey is just so generous. So making these piles, getting them in the wheelbarrow, and I thought I'd share some notes about what the strategies are that we use. So stick around. So I'm putting together a delivery for our chickens. This happens, twice a week, 3 times a week. We're filling the wheelbarrow with weeds from the garden, old lettuce and kale leaves, etc. In this case, it's grass clippings and comfrey. At some point, I should look for a sponsorship from these folks because I really love it, but I don't have one. I use a push reel mower. This one's Fiskar's. If they want to send me another one, I wouldn't complain. But we use this to mow the lawn, and that collects all the leaf clippings, and that fills the wheelbarrow with lawn clippings. And then while I'm at it, I go through and I cut back our comfrey and send that to them as well. And so I'm starting to put that in here. The tool I like to use for this is a Hori, H-O-R-I, H-O-R-I. And this one I happen to get from A.M. Leonard. I don't necessarily think this is the best one, but what I do like is to get one that has a really good sharp serration and is ideally stainless steel and high color so that I don't lose them. The wooden ones I tend to. And what we do, I have other videos where I talk about propagating comfrey and designing with comfrey. And in this case, we have comfrey planted every few feet along the outside of this fence. And so what I do is I go through with the Hori once a week, every other week, and cut all the comfrey just at ground level. What I don't do is I don't dig in and pry up and bring roots with me. I'm not trying to propagate the comfrey, I'm just trying to harvest. And so here you can see I just went through. And the Hori is nice because what it lets me do is with one hand I can hold the clump of comfrey, and with the other hand I can saw through, and then I throw it into a pile. I'll collect all that until I have a full packed heaping wheelbarrow and then dump that into the chicken yard. And so long as I'm not cutting into the ground, but rather just cutting all these stems, I basically just have incredible chicken feed. And they'll work through this. I'll make a shot when I dump this in the chicken yard. You'll see they really enjoy it, especially when it has flowers on it. But these comfrey nuggets here, I'm able to cut probably 6 to 8 times a year. And I'll show another area where I've got even more of it. So here's some comfrey along the fence that I have yet to cut. This is to the south, and that's to the north. These are zucchini. The zucchini's gotten so big I can barely walk through there to harvest, so I'm going to pause for a second, cut all this comfrey, and take another shot. So that took about 30 seconds and probably harvested about 3 or 4 pounds of greens that I'll throw in there, and the chickens will go through that. They tend to not eat the stems, but the soil life eats the stems. And at this point in the video, you might be wondering, well, what the heck, why would you care about harvesting comfrey and sending it to chickens? Well, in the description, I'll make some links to websites that go into better detail about what comfrey offers to the landscape. But basically, it's an incredible source of protein, tons of nitrogen, tons of minerals and vitamins. It's a nutrient accumulator of the highest order. So it's scouring for minerals super deep in the soil, and that benefits the chickens greatly. Plus, they really love the flavor of comfrey, or the experience of it. So designing our system where comfrey is acting as a rhizome barrier, so just on the outside of the fence, comfrey is every foot. You can barely see it because I cut it just about a week ago, but I'm going to go through. I'm in no rush because I already have an entire wheelbarrow full of comfrey and grass from about 15 minutes of management, but I'll go through next week and cut all this comfrey yet again and send it to the chicken yard. We'll probably be able to get 1, maybe even 2 more cuttings from just the outside of the fence, all while it brings up nutrients from the subsoil and at the same time blocks the grass from the neighbor's property from creeping in to our gardens. And so long as I don't go in with a shovel and disturb, and I don't run a tiller in here and disturb. We just simply add compost and plant in. The comfrey will stay there, the grass will stay there, and our crops will stay here, and I can harvest food for our chickens over and over and over again. So really amazing utility plant from a lot of levels. Let's send it to the chicken yard and see what they think. So 10 minutes mowing with a hand human-powered push mower to collect a half a wheelbarrow of grass. 5 minutes with a hoary collecting and managing incredible super nutrient dense soil building comfrey, and we've got a wheelbarrow load of fuel which will feed into the engine that is our chickens that generate compost as a waste product. So within a day or two, this pile will become eggs for us, except for these, which are all roosters, which in this case comfrey will become meat, which is a pretty nice transformation in my opinion, and the chickens seem to derive a ton of pleasure from eating this. I like to be able to provide them fresh comfrey and lawn clippings, ideally at least once or twice a week. And you can see the comfrey and grass will get dumped out. They're so eager, they're eating it right off the thing. Right into the top of our compost. We do this in other videos where I talk about it, but it'll get turned and turned and turned down the line. Within a week, it'll look like this. Within 10 days to 2 weeks, it'll start looking like this. 3 weeks, it'll look like this. And by 4 weeks to 5 weeks, it'll be over here, where it goes back in the same wheelbarrow and back up to the garden to fertilize the whole system. Chickens, you do a wonderful job of transforming all sorts of things into beautiful eggs, rich, exquisite compost, and just nice fertility. And it seems like you derive pleasure from it all the while. So I will dump this out for them and let them actually eat it instead of having to eat it off of the delivery cart. The all-you-can-eat buffet is open for business. And damn if these customers don't eat all they can eat. You would think they'd be 50 pounds each with the amount that they eat, but somehow they're not.